Shalom, shalom. Peace and blessings to the 12 tribes of Israel scattered abroad. My name is ShaamaAlah Adazal, and welcome to today's episode of Realize or Lies. I hope y'all learn a lot and we can use this to build our people.
Today on episode 37, we're going to be interviewing someone I'm really happy and really blessed to have on the show today, Priest Caswell of the Ethiopian African Black International Congress is going to be talking about our history as Israelites in Africa and in the Caribbean. We're touching on a few different subjects going from Ethiopia to Ghana, touching on Europeans a little bit. This is a really edifying lesson, and I really hope it brings y'all some clarity, y'all some proof that we so-called black people in America, we are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. And if you haven't heard of him, feel free to check out his YouTube channel, look him up. His Facebook is Bubble Caswell. He also has his YouTube channel. He be teaching a lot, and he got a lot of knowledge. And today we were both able to learn things from each other. We went heavy into scriptures from Genesis to Revelations. I'm really bringing out the history of our people, going back to Adam and Eve, through Noah, talking about Melchizedek. Conversation is real beautiful, real edifying. And man, I hope that y'all get your spirits fed today. If y'all don't know you're Israelites, come hear this. And if y'all ever curious about Rastafarianism, any branches of the various different Ethiopian religions, who the Ethiopians are, right? Because we might have heard that all Ethiopians are Hamites, right? We ain't Hamites. Well, we're gonna break those barriers today. We're going to talk about the history of Israel in Ethiopia. We're going to talk about the Aksum Empire, right? Which is what Ethiopia was originally called, which was modern-day Ethiopia and Southern Arabia, modern-day Yemen, right? We're talking about the original capital, Sheba. I heard y'all knew about Queen Sheba. Do you know that Sheba was the capital of Ethiopia and that she was Ethiopian? Do you know who the Ethiopians descend from, right? Are they Hamitic or the Shemitic? Who was Sheba? Who their first town was named after, who was a progenitor of the Ethiopian race, right? These are questions that we're going to be answering today. So without further ado, we're going to introduce Priest Caswell. Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Real Lies. Real Lies. How you doing today?
Bless the love. How to love. How's everything?
Oh, it's a blessed day. We had a good Sabbath yesterday, ending this feast day season we had last month. If you get a second, will you introduce yourself to the audience? Let them know who you are, what you're about.
Bless the love, royal family. How's everything internationally? My name is Priest Caswell. I'm from the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress. It's the True Church of Divine Salvation. Our location is 10 miles Bull Bay, Jamaica. I'm a priest of the Nyabingi order, the Bobo Shanti order. And I come today, to share the love, to share the word song, So I appreciate you having me here. It's really a joy to have you here.
All praise the Most High. It's a joy to have you here. I'm blessed just to be in your presence over this video and to have you here. For those of us who aren't as aware, can you break down a little bit what your church is about, what you believe? Just a quick basic breakdown.
Okay, the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, True Church of Divine Salvation. Our only religion is freedom, redemption, international repatriation. It's for the Black House of Israelite. We are said to have been carried away in slavery, for 400 years by ships. So I know ourselves as the remnant of Israel that was scattered to the four corners of the earth, that fulfilled such prophecy in Deuteronomy 28. So our divine church is to gather all sons and daughters of the Black House of Israelites from the four corners of the earth, to gather under one banner of love, under one throne, under one lineage, which is the lineage, of our father Abraham, the God of Jehovah, the Ancient of Days, even in this time. So that's basically our church is just designed to educate the world, about, the true Israelites in this time, Yeah, so we can take it from there, and as I carry on, once I guess could learn a bit more, to the word sound.
And feel free to bring out any scripture. I got my Bible with me, and anyone who listens to this show and has been listening for a while knows I bring out a lot of precepts. I definitely believe in going to the Word to prove everything. And so today we're going to be talking about the history of Israelites, and specifically in Africa and the Caribbean. If you would like to begin and start doing a little brief, basic breakdown of the history.
Okay, yeah, when we talk about the Israelites, in the Caribbean and in Africa, it basically starts with the Bible, you know, when we
Ah,
go into the actual book, of Genesis. And for many, there is a much deeper side that we can get into, but I'll just skim the top, But for us, as Israelites in the Caribbean and in Africa, in Genesis it says that the river Gihon compassed the whole land of Ethiopia, and this was the river that was said to be in Zion or in heaven, around that came of the throne of God,
ah,
and if we want to, we can actually go to that scriptures,
and I
Genesis
was going
2
to
and
ask you if you didn't mind. I got a scripture pulled up right now.
yeah, Genesis 2 and 3. You could go ahead and read, and I'll just
This
follow
is
up from there.
Book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 13. And the name of the
Yeah.
second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia.
Okay, so from the book of Genesis, we see that, the Garden of Eden, it was east of the throne of God. And, one of the name of the rivers was Gihon, and it compassed the whole land of Ethiopia. Now, a lot of people would argue Euphrates was one of the rivers and such, but we must remember civilization did not come up the river Nile. Civilization descend down the river Nile. So in the written Genesis copy, King James Version, they put another river to be the first river. I don't know if it was intentional by the scholars, the writers, the scribes, but actually the river Gihon should be the first river because it's at the highest region of civilization. So it would show that, civilization really started in Ethiopia, the ancient archaeological findings, even today. We have to debunk Kemet having the oldest writings. Kemet does not have the oldest writings. In
Ah,
South Africa, they find then, different forms of writing that are 60,000 years old. And Kemetic writings are only said to be 4,000 years ago. So we see that the African origin of Israel starts with Genesis, and then, we could quickly follow up how Israel became Israel,
ah,
because, yeah, Israel was first Jacob, and then was called Israel, and then he had 12 tribes. But where was Jacob from? Jacob came from Abraham. Abraham came from the river Gihon, Methuselah, Enoch. They all were descend according to the scriptures from Adam, and Adam dwelt near the river Gihon.
ah.
So
I want to get
that's
that
how it would.
first
Yeah.
river if you got a second, because I've heard something about that first river. I'd like you to expand on it. Verse 11. The name of the first is Pison. That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. So I was always taught that Havilah was another name for Africa, that the first river was actually referring to Africa as well.
Well, I have to agree with that because the whole region, as far even as to the Middle East, Palestine, and even to Saudi and to Arabia, because what is saying according to the Kemetic pyramids, the river Nile is swollen, because we have pyramid structures that are beneath, the Nile River that were once elevated. So it shows that, the connection between Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, it wasn't that much, of a difference, even having the Sea of Reeds, which is
Ah,
martial and easy access, So all of that was once known to be a Kebilan or ancient, I like to use the modern Ethiopia, but Ethiopia is still a translation, or Africa itself is an ancient translation of, our people, you know, that I don't want to get too deep into that
Yes,
further.
yes. I was reading about the origin of the word Africa, how it comes from Abraham's grandson in Genesis 25. It was named after him. And that's how it
Yes,
got
yes,
that
yes,
original
yes,
name. Unless
yes.
a lot of us have heard Scorpius africus, but it came way before him. Way before him. It was already called
Yes,
that.
yes, yes. So that's when we get into the Africans in the West now proclaiming to be Israelites, it's because of the consistency of prophecy. Prophecy said that Israel will again go into slavery a second time, right? By ships. And when we look at some of the ancient documents, even the European slave traders, they have a document that state they got 2,000 slaves from the land of Judah on the west coast of Africa.
I have that on my phone. I have a screenshot of that receipt from the University of Louisiana where it says Hebrew slaves from Judah, Africa.
Yes, yes, there you go. Perfect.
Yes.
So with that understanding, when Solomon broke the laws of God, because the modern world, or you know, I'll call it the tricky world, they make Solomon seem to be a hero with 700 wives and 500 concubines. They say Solomon was a lover boy. He was but when we look at the true nature of the word love, love is God. Solomon broke the commandments of God, within
Yes.
his own lust to go ahead and have these 700 women and them being of different nations. You see? So when Solomon kingdom fell apart, the Ark of the Covenant left the Middle East. That is
Um,
the part of history that was erased, and they tried to hide it, in the newer versions of the scripture. The King James being one of them, when they said that the Queen of Sheba, the Queen Makeda from the land of Sheba and
yeah.
Seba, which
And
is
most
Saudi
people don't know
Arabia
what Sheba
and
is.
Ethiopia.
Yeah, Sheba is
You
the
see?
ancient capital of Ethiopia, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Also into Arabia, because even
Yeah.
into the Quran, the Muslims, they identify with the Queen of Sheba, the Queen
Yeah. Well, if you
Makeda.
look at the ancient kingdom of Axum, which is what Ethiopia was called, it wasn't just modern day Ethiopia. It also, that kingdom went into southern Arabia.
Yes, yes, was naturally, yes.
Yep. It was
So
both
when she
sides.
when she met with Solomon, you know, she had a son that was documented, through history,
Many of them.
not just by word, but by lineage.
Hmm.
Because even when you look at Menelik II at the Battle of Adwa in the 1800s, he was a descendant of Menelik I. You got a Menelik II, Menelik I. Menelik I is known to be Solomon's son for the Queen of
Yeah.
Sheba.
And I want to get this
Yeah.
scripture real quick for context so the listeners can know what we're talking about. First Kings 11, starting at verse 1, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, sure. Go ahead.
But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites. Of the nations concerning that which Yahweh sent to the children of Israel, you should not go unto them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to
Wow.
pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with Yahweh his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the gods of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and would not
Mm,
fully after Yahweh as did David his father. So we see there that one of the reasons why we were commanded not to marry women of other nations, because they would go and turn away our hearts after their false gods. As happened to him, the
naturally.
most wise man in the history of the world committed a whole bunch of sins at the end of his life
Yes,
because
yes,
of that.
yes. And for this, there is a document that was written during the time of the early Ethiopian introduction to the Solomonic dynasty. The book was called the Kibra Nigas. the Keeper and the Gods, along with the Book of Enoch, the Maccabees, the Book of Jubilees. These were various books that were exempt from, the modern day canon of Bible,
Yeah, the
books.
Protestant Church removed all those books, and so my set of Israelites, we subscribe to most of that. We don't subscribe to Enoch or Jubilees or Jasher just because we haven't seen ancient manuscripts that can match the modern day manuscripts. With a prime example being Enoch. There's two manuscripts that are used now that I know of, and that's the one from the Latin version and the one from the Ge'ez version. And those two versions could be different books. They're so much different. So our stance for those three specifically is until we see an ancient manuscript that matches them, we're not going to subscribe to them because we got ancient manuscripts that match Esdras, that match Maccabees, that match all the rest, just not those three specific ones.
Okay. Well, the most I can just add to that is that in Ethiopia, as you say, the Ge'ez version, I kind of validate everything that comes from the Ethiopians because they are the Solomonic,
Yes.
representation,
And no one
lineage-wise,
else has records.
natural. And then see, when we look now to the Ark of the Covenant moving into Ethiopia, it's where this Israelite identification seems to get lost, you see, because at that time when Solomon kingdom fell apart, the European Romans start to really take hold of the Middle East per se, and 325, I think it is, AD at the Council of Nicaea.
Yep.
Yeah, when they started to accept some of this Jewish, belief system. This is the Europeans. It says that this was the formation of the Ashkenazi Jew.
Yep. And actually, that whole movement actually started a lot earlier, as recorded in the Maccabees, when Alexander the Great took over that area. It records in Maccabees as that's when they started replacing our images with their images, and they got caught doing that. So that movement started a little bit earlier. It just took a long time to really gain a foothold.
Manifest itself. So yes, these Ashkenazi Jews that were created in the Roman Holy Land, controlled by the Roman Emperor, they have actually no connection to the Israelites. And why people say, well, they convert, because in actuality, you can't convert to be an Israelite.
Yes, I had this conversation with my cousin recently because I was breaking down the history of the Khazarian Empire and where they come from, right? In the modern day Caucasus Mountains and northern Turkey, Ukraine, that area around the Black Sea. And he's like, well, they have a claim because they converted. I'm like, you can't convert. You're born an Israelite through the seed of the Father.
And like you say, you use a very important scripture that proves what we just said when you quoted I think it was Second Kings.
Yes.
I think it was Second Kings when you spoke of, I don't want to misquote you.
When I just quoted about Solomon?
Solomon, yes.
That was, let me pull it up. That was 1 Kings 11:4.
1 Kings 11:4. Yes, it tells you that, in 1 Kings 11:2, you see where God didn't want Israel to marry no other nation.
Yep.
So there was no way to convert, into Israel. Israel was a family,
Yes.
descending from Abraham. It was a family lineage, type system, that was to be kept as a family and a lineage type system.
Yes. And we see that going into modern days with all the people around the world who are tracing their lineage back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because we got dispersed to the four corners of the world. So we do look like a lot of different nations, but we can all trace our lineage. We all know who we come from. We're all going through the same conditions, no matter where we're at, no matter if we're here in the US, in Jamaica, the Bahamas, in Africa, in the Philippines, wherever we got sent to, we're in the same conditions and we have the same lineage.
And see, the thing is, Um, even though we're scattered, the Ark of the Covenant is our rallying point. It's the central point of Israel. The Ark
Oh,
of Covenant, as you know, it is the Shekinah glory of God. It's the
yeah.
presence of God. So when the Ark of the Covenant left Solomon, Solomon wept. And he pursued the Ark of the Covenant because he knew without its presence, he had not the presence of God. He didn't have the favor of God upon the people. So the favor of God went to Ethiopia. The Ark went to Ethiopia. To actually put it in perspective to the true Israelites, God went to Ethiopia, the Shekinah glory. And when we look in Revelation chapter 5, it speaks of, you know, the king sitting on the throne in the last days and going ahead and opening up these seals, open up, this actual Ark of the Covenant.
Okay. I got that pulled up. What verse do you want to start on?
That's Revelation 5 and 5.
Revelations 5 and 5. I
Yeah.
got it. And one of the elders saith unto me, Weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the seven seals thereof. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the four beasts, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne.
Okay, that's perfect right there. So when we look according to the prophecy, the Revelation is the book of prophecies. It says, it says in Revelation, that's 2 and 9, and Revelation 3 and 9. He says,
Yep.
some say they are Jews, but they are not, you see, but they are the synagogue of Satan.
Yep, I'm very
And
familiar with that scripture. And a lot of people they think of the word Satan and the word devil, and they think of these like mythological creatures from Greek mythology, and that's not what it means. Satan
mm,
simply means the adversary, right?
yes, 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 like Israel's adversary. So
Yes.
when we go along with the scripture and it says some say they are Jews and they are not. Okay, we have a controversy here. In
Yes.
Ethiopia, they saying they have the ark. They saying they are the Jews. They saying Solomon descent, the throne. Very important because Solomon's son carried his ring and he carried the scepter into Ethiopia, so he could rule, over his mother's kingdom, Makeda. You see. So he took the rulership, and Solomon even gave him the head of all his priests, the captains, the oldest sons of all his head of his whole government. The oldest sons were sent into Ethiopia with Menelik. So the government of Israel, Judah, the house of Judah, went into Ethiopia, and it remained there, from the time of Solomon, from, we're talking about 900 BC, before Christ. It remained there until today. And that's why when the emperor was crowned in 1930, his
Emperor.
crowning was so, Emperor Haile Selassie,
Yep.
the king of Ethiopia, his crowning was so significant than all the other kings. Because when he was crowned King of Kings, he was allowed to go into the ark and to look into the book. Yeah, and to loose the seals and look therein. You
Huh.
see,
And I want to get a
the
scripture real quick for something
yeah.
you said, because you said it's a controversy, right? Well, it's funny.
Mhm.
There's an actual scripture that talks about this controversy. Isaiah
Okay.
34 and 8. For it is the day of Yahweh's vengeance, and the year of their recompenses for the controversy of Zion.
See, the location of Zion. We can get into it. Watch this now. That's a very good scripture, to help us along the way. So with the emperor having the ability to look into the Ark of the Covenant, to loose the seals and look at the ancient texts, the ancient books of Moses, the tablets, Aaron rod, it's all in the Ark of the Covenant. When the emperor made the speech, he said the translation, the message is the same. No matter translation, the message is the same. It's average the same message, you see, according to the Ethiopian, you know, collection of ancient writings from our
Huh.
Hebrew fathers, you see. Now, the controversy line, there's a group of people in the Middle East now, right? After the destruction of the kingdom of Israel, during the time of Solomon, even when, Christ came, there was no king in Israel. That's
Yep.
why the disciples and all the people asked, they said Jesus Christ. When we say Jesus, we don't say Jesus because it's not phonics.
Yeah.
We
And
say
we
Jessica,
most Israelites in America, we say in the what we believe is the original Hebrew, so we say Yahushai, but it's the same name.
yeah, Yeshua,
Yeah.
Yesu Cristo.
Yep.
Yeah, but we say yes, Jesus, you see.
Yes.
So even Jesus 2,000 years, they was accusing him to come and be this king, to rule over Israel and take back the kingdom because, remember Israel brought in Saul, bring in David, they bring in Solomon. So they have already picked up this nature of having a king to rule over them. So they say Christ come to restore the kingdom of Israel. But Christ tell them, say the time is not yet,
Yep. And
according to
talk about the
prophecy.
destruction of that land, and in 70 AD, we see the destruction by General Titus, and we see that they recorded that millions of Jews fled into Egypt and up the Nile into
Yes,
into sub-Saharan Africa, fleeing the attempted genocide by
Ethiopia.
the Romans.
Yes. And they found, of course, in Ethiopia, that's why the Philastia Jews,
Yep.
they found refuge in Ethiopia because the Ethiopians had already had the Ark of the Covenant. There was already a way of the Torah. There was
Yep.
already, Israelite, by nature.
Yeah,
And
there's already a lot of Israelites in Ethiopia, and they also fled into West Africa too, but Ethiopia specifically, there was already Israelites there. And I want to do a little side note into Ethiopia because there's a kind of debate in the Israelite community in the US of because not all Ethiopians are Israelites, but are the rest of them Hamitic or Shemitic? And I've argued that they're Shemitic, right? And I want to get your opinion on this. So I want to go to Genesis 25.
Mhm,
I'll do verse 1 and drop down to verse 3.
mhm.
Or actually verse 1 through 3. And again, Abraham took a wife, her name was Keturah. So Abraham had Isaac and Ishmael. Now he's having a bunch more kids. And she bare him Zimran and Jokshan and Median and Midian and Ishbak and Shua. And Jokshan begat Sheba and Dedan, right? So from my research, um, I've came to the conclusion that the Ethiopians that aren't Israelites are still descended from Abraham through Sheba, and that's where they got the name of their first capital. So what is your research on that?
Amos, I think it's the book of Amos, chapter 6. Can you pull it up quickly?
Yeah, I'll pull it up real quick. Amos 6. What verse?
I just want to have a reference with you. Okay, this is Amos chapter 6. Oh, I thought I had it, but you may be familiar with the scripture. It says that the Ethiopians and the Israelites are one.
Oh, there is a scripture that talks about that. Let's see if I can pull it up.
Pull it up right quick. I think it's in the book of Amos, where God, this erases all that dispute about, the Ethiopian and the Israelite, you see.
I'm just going to keep looking for this for a second. I should be able to find it.
I'm sorry, viewers. Along the way, some questions asked, and
Yes, I found it. Amos 9, verse 7.
Amos 9, there you go.
Yes. Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, saith Yahweh, have not brought Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Captor, and the Syrians from Ker? Is that
Give
the
thanks.
scripture you were looking for?
Yeah, that's it right there. So right there, we could see that God was trying to explain to Israel, that the Ethiopian Israelite is one people. Because again, Abraham came from Enoch,
Yeah.
well, Methuselah, and they come from the river Gihon. They
And there's
came
a
from the land of
second
Ethiopia.
precept for that too, if you don't mind me getting the second precept to back that up.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Zephaniah 3 and 10. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring my offering.
There you go. And we could give another scripture. Let's go to Psalms 87. It really seal up, Ethiopia as, being one with Israel. They one people.
Psalms 87, and are you going to go to verse 4?
We could read from the first verse.
All right. A psalm or song for the sons of Korah. His foundation is in the holy mountains. Yahweh loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob.
Okay, right there. Before we go any further, where's the foundation of God?
It's
It's
always
in
been
the
Mount Zion.
holy mountains. Now, remember when we was talking about civilization, archaeologically proven, even through chronological and carbon dating, that Ethiopia to South Africa has an older history of civilization than thought. Proven that civilization came down the Nile. So the holy mountains and the book of Genesis 2 giving us a location, the river Gihon, Ethiopia. It's showing you even geographically, if you look at Ethiopia, it is
It's high.
surrounded by mountains.
It's a highland. I actually
And
read
holy mountains.
a
And
National
why we say holy
Geographic a while
mountains?
ago. There's animals that live there that don't live anywhere else because it's such a distinct climate. It's higher than all the rest of Africa.
It's the highest region, and not only that. Well, that's another video on the geography and
Yes, it's
the whole
very
struggle.
similar in climate to where I live because I live in a high desert. I live in a desert that's 3,000 to 5,000 feet above sea level. So it's very
Whoa,
similar to where I live in the climate and how it looks.
climate. Okay.
Yes.
So with this significance, Ethiopia, having that, spot on origin, the ancient civilization, and then the Bible saying the river Gihon, you know, is where the Garden of Eden is. And then we identify that even to the river Euphrates, it was once Africa. So when we say his foundations in the holy mountains and the river came out of the throne, a river can't run up the Nile. A river cannot run from Euphrates up the Nile. A river cannot run from Arabia up the Nile.
Yes,
But
and for some clarification for people who are not familiar with the geography of the Nile is the only river that runs from south to north. So to go up the Nile, you're going south.
what they'll call down.
Yes, yes,
But
yes,
you're actually going up
yes,
the Nile.
yes, yes. So it's a little reverse than what most people are used to because the Nile is the only river I know of in the world that does that.
And even when we look at archaeological findings of the pyramids, the pyramid systems chronologically is as this. You got lower, upper Egypt, and then you got Nubia. Nubia have pyramids older than upper and lower. When you
Yeah.
go into South America and China, these duplicates of the pyramid system, they all came from Nubia. Nubia is the first,
And where
civilization
did a
came.
lot of Israelites flee into? The Americas, the different islands, all the places you find those different pyramids is places you find history of Israelites fleeing to.
Yes, yes. And when you look at Africa as a whole, the only country where all its mountains, merely the majority, not all, but majority of its mountains is filled with priests.
And that is
Holy
Ethiopia.
priests reading the Bible, reading the scripts, reading the Torah, the highest church in the world in the mountain, Oxum. It kind of fits the scripture when it says its foundation is in the holy mountains,
Yes, you broke this down to me the other day, and it made a little sense. It was a perspective I hadn't heard before. But one thing that I do want to clarify for listeners is I don't know so much in the Caribbean, but in the U.S., we're always taught that the oldest Torahs are in Europe, and that's not true. If you do the research, the oldest copies of the Torah, the oldest manuscripts have been found in Africa.
in Ethiopia, most naturally.
Yes.
Even when we go into the Hebrew language, the Hebrew language can only be traced back to Amharic, and it's the closest language to the typewriting, of Amharic. You see,
Yep, and that's a
so
language
it
spoken in
shows that
Ethiopia, correct?
the INI, the Israelites who wrote the Torah and all the Jewish writings, we were of Ethiopian descent because it was It was a broken form of Amharic writing, our ancient writings. As we came down the Nile, we went into Kemet and we went into the Middle East. By these times, when you go into the Dead Sea, you had what you call the hieroglyphics. You had the Dead Sea Scrolls that were developed by these same Jewish Ethiopians.
Yes, the oldest
That's
Hebrew
why our
looks like
writings, our
hieroglyph.
writings is not close to the Egyptian writings, the Kemetic writings. It's closer to the Ethiopian writings to show that we were a preserved nation,
There's
with
actually a
very few
historian.
alternating of our culture. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's also a historian. I can't remember which one, but it's one of the Greek historians from when they had conquered the land and were in control of Israel, right, the modern day Middle East. And they said we believe the Israelites are descended from the Ethiopians because they look the same.
Almost naturally, Ethiopian. Right back to Amos 9. It goes right back to Amos 9. And when we go back to the Ashkenazi Jews, I've done historical search for years, trying to find out, the origin of the European race, without prejudice, because, my peeps through slavery have a bit of European and I too. So it's without any form of prejudice. It wouldn't even make sense because I'm
Yes.
half and half.
And that's when people get
I
mad.
was,
People try to break down the history. I'm like, my mom is European, so I'm coming in without
yeah,
prejudice, right?
yeah.
I'm trying
So
to look
I'm
for
giving a
yeah.
non-biased historic research. All my years, even in genetics and in, basic, let's say, science, chemistry, I couldn't figure out how the European come to American, you know. There's no historical evidence. Some people can say there's a particular race that came from reptilians and they come from a different planet. There's a lot of different theories how this particular Aryan white race came from. But years later, as I'm an older brother,
Yeah.
I was reading the scripture and I went into 2 Kings 5:27.
Okay, 2 Kings 5:27. And I believe I know what scripture you're going to because this is something I was trying to look into for a while.
Yes.
2 Kings 5:27. The leprosy thereof of Naaman shall cleave unto thee and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper as white as snow.
Okay. Now, in Africa, we have some people they call albino.
Yes.
If you notice, the Africans, which were actually the same as Israelites, they would cast the albino out.
And we see that the country that has the highest percentages of albinos is Jamaica.
Yeah, for sure. And, for this reason, in Africa or where most of the Israelites dwell, an albino would be similar to what you call a person that has leprosy. You
Yes,
see.
most people don't realize that as a biblical definition of leprosy is various forms of losing your pigmentation, whether it's albinism, vitiligo. That's what biblical leprosy is. One of the signs was white spots in your skin. Another sign was thin yellow hairs. It was very different than the modern definition of leprosy.
Exactly. And when we look at the ancient definition of leprosy, it was sporadic and still is sporadic throughout Israel or Africans we know today, Israelites.
Yeah.
But when we look at the European nation, according to the scripture, he says that he was to have the curse of leprosy permanently within his DNA. No
Okay.
matter what he does, as long as his children, they mate, they would have, as long as you have two of, the leopards having children, the child will be consistently leopard or white
Okay. So
as
you're
snow.
teaching that they're descended from Naaman.
Most natural, the Naaman's
Okay.
descendant.
All
And
right, that's a
our
little different than our stance, but I definitely looked into this. Our stance, they're descended from Esau. I don't know if you've heard that or not.
well, if you really look at it, that's possible because now when you say descend from Esau,
Yes.
they would have had to been black.
That's where we get it, is because Esau is described as being red, not black.
No, but then watch this. It's no such thing as red. Because when you look at Noah, Noah had three sons.
Yes.
Noah,
Japheth
Noah,
and Shem.
Noah, yeah, Noah was a black man.
Yes.
Noah's wife was a black man. I'm
Yes.
black, sorry, a black woman.
Yes, not black man.
That American stuff. You see, again, yeah,
Yeah.
we fighting the final war, right? This is the final war. It's the Gideon. It's a spiritual and a physical
Yes,
war.
it is.
So yes, yeah, both Noah and his wife were both black African descent. They were from the Ethiopian Adam of the Nile, in the whole region of Africa. Even if you would look to the Middle East, the Palestinians, the people of the Middle East, they still black people. Yes, the European gave us shades, red and this and that and that. But
Yeah, it's like I'm a
you
prime
know,
example that people look at me, they're like, "You're part black." Yeah, I promise you, my dad is black.
but in all honesty, in the original state of Africa, when you were considered black, that covered all the shades from the light skinned
And it still
Ethiopian
does.
to the darkest,
Yes.
Ugandan,
Yes, my
yeah.
congregation has a lot of three different camps in Ghana, and they all look at me as just the same as them, right? They're like,
Yeah,
we don't view shades the way you guys do in
you
America.
black.
And I did an episode a while ago that talks about why we do that here in the US, and it was very specifically taught to us to divide us.
Yes, true Willie Lynch and Jim
Yes.
Crow. So watch this. So through Abraham and his children being of African descent, when you would say the European race coming from Esau, the Edomite, you know, I can agree with that, but they would have not manifested as the European race until Nahum. So I've
Okay.
not done enough research to see if Nahum is a descent of Esau.
Okay, that makes a little bit of sense because our stance is that Esau was born different. Why they got like a whole section to describing how he looked when he was born, how no one else looked. Essentially, a genetic mutation. I've done some science research. Have you ever looked at the anthropological websites about where they say that they originated from? They say they originated from a genetic mutation in the Levant, modern day Israel and Edom, which
Ah,
matched
no.
and Esau.
Well, see, when we come from Esau was Jacob's brother,
Yes.
and it was very common in Israel. You had the hairy, and then you had, you know, still
This, yeah.
today, as a black Israelite, in the Ethiopia Africa Congress, we call ourselves Bobo Shanti, the Bobo Shanti from Ghana, the Bobo. Bobo
Yeah.
means black African child, you see.
Yes. And
So,
Ashanti is where a lot of African Americans come from. That's
yes,
why our
yes. So,
congregations in Ghana, they're specifically amongst the Ashanti tribe because they know who they are. They know they're Israelites.
not true, not true. So
Yes.
we Ashanti, we Bobo Shanti, same said way, it's like us knowing ourselves, we kind of understand the fullness of the connection. You see, what I mean, it's important that we understand that, like I say, with Esau being Jacob brother, right in the Bobo Shanti, we have some Bobo they hairy, and then some of them they cannot grow no hair. They just have this
Oh,
little
I
beard
haven't
and
shaved in months. You can
yeah, we
see.
have some, so and then when we look at each other, you be like, yeah, you could see with more Esau descent, the hairy, and then you'll see more. The color, not so much because when we see red, that's black, you know, that when we look at races, like when you say it's a black man, even if you like, a Chinese is a whole different race, bro. The Indians is a whole different. So you have light skinned Chinese, you have dark skinned Chinese, you have light skinned Indians, you have dark skinned Indians. The Europeans, they stop because they have leprosy. So they don't get to be light skin or dark skin. They
No, they're
just
the
one
only
skin.
race in the world that does not have melanin. It doesn't have
And
one, like every shade has some degree of melanin. They're the only one that has zero melanin.
and that's a different subject because melanin is just a European scientific word. They lack carbon. Carbon makes us black. The
Yes.
carbon gene, that at birth from conception that determines how much carbon is gonna be present per atom to make you black. You
Yes.
see, the higher concentration of carbon per atom, the blacker you are. They were stripped of carbon in their DNA through the curse of Elijah. Hence, Africa, hot regions, become a curse to them. The Bible says because of their sin, God put an angel of light so they cannot.
And
And
that makes
Africa
sense
become
because
and
even
that's
like someone like me who's very light skinned, I work inside. I don't get outside very often, but when I'm outside a lot, I get about 10 shades darker. I can get
yeah, yeah.
about as dark as, let's say, John Legend. That's like the darkest I get. Very
And
easily. Like the sun doesn't hurt me. I very easily gain that.
and see, you have a carbon, you have a presence of carbon DNA coming from your black side of your lineage. If
Yes.
you are a pure European, oh no, you start burning. Yeah, because the sun it resonates with carbon. Carbon absorbs sunlight. Even in colors, they tell you black absorbs the sun. You
It does.
see, white reflects. So when the sun rays hit their skin, it reflects this against their skin. It becomes more violent. And that's why they were sent to the caves, to the Caucasus Mountains, into the colder regions, where their new anatomy could survive.
Yes, if you've seen the
Without the
cities in the Caucasus Mountains, they're wild because they're giant cities literally built into caves that people still go and
yes,
look
yes,
at.
ice caves. Yes. And without the modern day technology, and that's why the emperor empress, Rastafari's empress, she says that, the modern day inventions can destroy them. They had to invent the air condition. They had to condition the air so that they can go in places that their skin, then
Yes, and that was
they
a
have
point I brought
they call it
out.
suntan lotion.
Con.
Why? They
That's
trying
a
to.
that's a point I brought out in different episodes before. Is the history of the various Israelites? Is every time we see us being persecuted throughout anywhere, whether it was in Israel, whether it was in Spain during the persecution, we always fled into Africa every
Into Kingdom
single
of Egypt,
time.
yeah.
And last time I checked, there wasn't a giant population of Europeans running around Angola, which is where they fled from Spain when they were persecuted in Spain.
You see, that's what I'm talking. And watch this. What a lot of people don't know, these Ashkenazi Jews, they predominant in the European state, the American state, just as the Bible say, the city, on the hill, with this, with these horns, and the horns come out of
The
the
city of the
little
Seven
horn came
Hills,
with
and if you Google City of Seven Hills, what comes up? Rome.
Vatican City.
Rome is called the City of the Seven Hills.
Yeah,
And we have
so
about 3 minutes left.
yeah, so out of Rome built America. And when you look at I just want to give the stats right quick. When you look at the population of these Ashkenazi Jews, these Jews that say they converted, which made of themselves in the Roman Empire, it is 6 million Ashkenazi Jews in America. You see, 3 million Ashkenazi Jews in Israel. So we have right there, I ain't talking about around the world. Right there, you have over 9 million Europeans claiming that they're descent of Israel, and they are not.
And the funny thing is, a lot of their leaders, like Rabbi Harry Rosenberg, and a lot of their leaders openly say that they're converts and that we're the Israelites. And I send a lot of people to them. I'm like, your leaders say who you are. And it's mostly in the U.S. where a lot of people don't even know their history at all, that they say that they are. But I'm like, your name says it all. Ashkenazi Jew. Who is Ashkenaz?
But watch this. This was significant to many to understand. When you see the fake Jews, because you see they're trying to build a third temple, they're trying to bring their Christ return, their antichrist. You see, but in Ethiopia, the book of Revelation, from Revelation 5 to 7, even Revelation 8, has already happened. Christ has already returned on the throne, from the throne of David. He returned as written in the scriptures, where it says when Christ returned, it said there's a lamb in the midst of the throne. And the one who sat upon the throne, who opened the seals, he gave the lamb the seals. In 1966 in Jamaica, the emperor from the lineage of Solomon and David, King David descendant, brought the highest seal, a golden 5-point star, and gave it to King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, the founder and leader of the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress. He built the fifth kingdom of Jesus Christ. And he come to gather the Israelites out of the west, out around the world. He come to gather 12,000 from each tribe. That's fulfilling Revelation 7. I'm one of the descendants of the Israelites brought into slavery, Deuteronomy 28. And he gathered me as one of the 12,000 to be priests unto God, to have the seal of God in our head. That's why when people see us, they say, oh, they Rastas, because we have the seal of the king. Israel king is Rastafari. King Rastafari is the king of Israel. From the king, the Bible says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah until Shiloh come. And when you look at the emperor in Ethiopia, he was the last descendant from Solomon from Solomon dynasty to sit upon the throne. But he gave the seal to Emmanuel, which is the Black Christ Melchizedek return. Somebody may have to get into another video because we're running out of time.
Yes, we have less than 60 seconds left.
Yes. And when we speak of the Black Christ, that's the same Black Moses. The Moses come return, he gave us the 10 commandments. And like I say, he tells us our only religion is freedom, redemption, and repatriation, which is the redemption of the Black host of Israelite, to redeem us back to the Ark of the Covenant, not to Palestine. Because Solomon, they lose the land when Solomon, break God's law. The Bible says if Solomon children keep his commandment, then he would give them that promised land, but he didn't. So he took the Ark of the Covenant, he took the throne back to its origin. Genesis chapter 2, the city of God. Here's Mount Zion. It's on the side of the north. It's the city of the great king, not in Palestine, because he said he loved the gates of Zion more than the dwellings of Jacob. Jacob dwelt in Palestine. And he said, behold, Philistine, Ethiopia, in the same Psalms 87. He said, this man was born there. And the highest, we know God is the highest himself, shall establish Ethiopia. So I know we need another video to go much more into it, but, that's our American, Caribbean connection to Ethiopia, the Israelites,
And we're out of time, elders. So I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. Peace and blessing to the 12 tribes of Israel scattered abroad. I hope y'all are getting fed from this show, that y'all got some knowledge, and y'all take time to really dig into your history and who we are. We're the chosen people of the Most High Yahweh. And with that, I say shalom.
Peace and love. Shalom. Jah. RASTAFARI. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Man, oh man, was that an edifying show today. I hope y'all got your spirits fed, man. We waking up to be in the true nation of Israel everywhere, from Jamaica to the Bahamas to the U.S. to Peru to all across Africa, from Ghana to Ethiopia to the Philippines, anywhere we disperse to the four corners of the earth. We is the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the chosen seed of the Most High. And man, it was a beautiful conversation today. If this is y'all first time tuning in, this is Realize Real Lies with ShaamaAlah from True Nation Central Oregon. Feel free to tap into our YouTube channels, True Nation Israelite Congregation HQ, which is streamed from LA. Hit us up on our emails, reply@truenation.org, whatever state may be it. We got congregations all across the map, from Oregon to LA to Detroit to Ottawa, Canada to Haiti, Ghana, Philippines, anywhere you can think of. We're building there, or we're willing to build there. We got brothers, apostles going on missions on a regular basis. They should be heading out to the Philippines in January. They just got back from Ghana recently. They're heading up to Oregon from LA first weekend of December. So feel free to tap in with us. We got lessons 6 nights a week. Everything from Bible basics to world history according to the Bible to sound doctrine, which is addressed more at the different leaders in the various different Israelite communities, holding us to a certain standard, because as the leader is, so is the people. And again, I really appreciate y'all continuing tapping throughout all these weeks. We almost at episode 40, y'all, and that's a little mind-blowing. We just got an update we listen to all around the world. Share this with your friends. Have them download this app. Support my brother Ricardo's app, the first so-called black-owned radio in Central Oregon. And feel free to share these videos. We also record it on SoundCloud for 1 week after every episode drops. It is on SoundCloud. You can share with your friends. Get this word to the four corners of the earth. I hope this is making a difference to y'all. We tapping in on everything from our history, to how do we address the different curse conditions our people are under from Deuteronomy 28, from breaking the covenant with the Most High. How's that look in our communities? From drug use to murders to broken families. And how do we fix that? Right? We're not just trying to address the concerns. We're trying to bring solutions to do something actionable that we can do, because we can't lie, no matter where we're at, we as so-called black and brown people, we as a whole, and there's going to be exceptions, there's always exceptions, true, but as a whole, we in cursed conditions. And that needs to change, right? We need to stop filling up these prison houses, stop filling up the graveyards. We are a brilliant people who has invented the majority of things that this country, the U.S., depends on, right? If you look back through the mentions, which they briefly talked about in our month, February, the shortest month they gave us, but we're going to talk about it all year.